Hi guys, it's Nicole, and today I am going to attempt to share with you guys how I make my DIY photo templates where in Photoshop Elements I crop my photos and I make my own photo collage. So I'm hoping that this will kind of be quick and be able to just kind of share with you guys how easy it can be to do this. In my Photoshop Elements, I went to my March 2020 photos and I pulled out 30 photos. I typically don't start out saying I want 30 photos. What I do is I scroll through my photos and I ignore things like special events or different occasions that I know I want to have a dedicated page for that. So I ignore those photos. I don't include them in month in review, even though, yes, it happened during the month. I just kind of don't want to duplicate those photos. So I just start picking the ones that I want, and then I drag and drop them into the photo bin down here in Photoshop Elements. In this instance, I think the first time I did it, I had 28 photos. By the time I got done, I had 31 photos. I looked a little closer at some of the photos that I had, and I ended up taking away a couple and adding one. I chose to dedicate a separate layout for the 5 or 6 photos that I had available for one thing, and so 30 is where I am at right now, and I do kind of like to have an even number. Now, my personal project, like you guys will see in different photo collages, that isn't always going to be the case, and I'm going to intentionally do that and leave some blanks. But for the sake of the tutorial, I'm just going to show you how I go about cropping the photos, how I go about setting up the blank document and putting them on there and that kind of a thing. So for me, the ones that I have posted in the last couple videos, I go through and crop as many photos as I can into a square size. That's going to be the easiest thing to work with. And then if I have anything else that I think is going to have to be a taller size or have to be a wider size, I kind of save those to figure out what's going to happen with that. So at this point I've got about 19 of them already cropped down just to kind of save time on the video. And I pretty much just look at them. Like I can look at this one and I can tell you this is not going to crop to a square. I can look at this one and tell you this one might be able to crop to a square. This one, not going to happen. A lot of times it's because these are phone pictures, and if I didn't do a good job of centering everything, like this one I can probably get down to a square. Same thing with this one. Plus it kind of depends on how much I want to cut out of the background. So I think I'm going to go ahead and start with maybe this one, and I'm going to go ahead and make my photo bin smaller just so I can see the photo a little bit better. And I've said this in previous videos like this, my computer is going to respond a little slower than it normally will because I'm screen recording. So you're going to come over here to your crop tool. Now again, this might be somewhere different on your version, but the crop icon always looks like these two corner elements coming together. So I'm going to click that. And then down here where it says use photo ratio, I'm going to do the drop down and I'm going to say no restriction. This is me telling the software I want to tell it what size I want the photo to be. I have been doing 1.5 by 1.5 inches, and then this is just years and years of habit. I saw this in another video. I do 300 resolution. Sometimes the software will go ahead and put this cropped square on here for you. So then you can kind of go and move it around. You can resize it if you want to, that kind of thing. I think I'm going to go about there, and then I'm going to say green check mark to yes. And you want this to happen. You want to see the photo shrink down to a small size. I am by no means a Photoshop Elements expert. No. Do not come for me if something doesn't go the same way. About I'd say if I crop 10 photos, 9 of them will do this. Every once in a while, I'll get one that doesn't jump down to this small size. And usually it's because the resolution didn't stay typed in when it cropped. And I'm kind of hoping I can catch one while I do this. But if it doesn't crop down to a small size like that, you might want to just do edit, undo, and crop it again. You should be able to look up here on your ruler and kind of say, look, this looks like a 1.5. This looks like it's about 1.5. This looks accurate. So I'm going to go through and see if there's anything else that I think I can go ahead and crop down to that size. I think I can probably do this one as well. It's pretty similar. So again, I'm going no restriction. I'm going 1.5, 1.5, 300 on the resolution. Now we'll see this one did not automatically put that square on my photo. So I'm going to come up here and I'm just going to click and drag my own box, green check mark, and it jumped to a small size. That's what I want to have happen. I bet this one I can probably get down to a square. So 1.5 by 1.5, 300 resolution, and it almost made the square and then it went away. Okay, I can't get her and the cat in the same frame. So for now, I'm going to say no to the crop, and I'm going to come back over here. And then this is where I kind of start looking at my photos. So the ones that I'm able to crop to a square, I just kind of rearrange them so that all the square ones are kind of at the end. Everything else that I have not cropped yet is over here. So all these are the ones that I'm looking at. And ideally for me, I would like to have an even number because it just ends up working out better on a collage for what my intended purposes are. So right now I've got 21 cropped to a square size. So I'm really hoping that I can get at least one of these down to a square, and I might be able to do this one right here. So, and see, look, this one, for whatever reason, that I have no way of explaining why it does this, but it's already set up for the parameters that I have been typing in. This doesn't happen all the time, so I don't have a way of explaining that. I would suggest maybe, I mean, if you really want to know the whys of stuff like that, maybe watch some digital scrapbook girls on here and maybe they'll be able to kind of answer that. I don't really get too in depth with the whys. I just know how to use it for me. Okay, so again, I don't do all of my cropping and then start arranging because then I don't want to have to go back and undo a bunch of stuff. So, well, okay, real quick, I'm going to show you because the last two collages, I did have different sizes. So if I know that I can't crop it to a square and I'm going to want to do a rectangle, I have been doing, I think, 2 inches on the width, keeping it 1.5 inches high because they're all going to be on a row. So you want all your photos that are in a row to be at least the same height. You can change the width of all of them. You just want to make sure that the height is going to be the same. So I'm going to draw my box, and it looks like that size is going to work for this one. Let's try this one again. Okay, again, see it. Most times I have to go in here and do no restriction and type it in myself. So I'm going to go 2 inches wide, 1.5 inches high, 300 on the resolution, draw my box, and then I can get kind of the whole story that's going on in the photo. Okay, so typically around this point is when I'm like, okay, I need to start figuring out what's going to go where. So I'm going to come up here and go File, New, Blank File. I only have 8.5 by 11 photo paper, and my printer is not wide format. So for me, I pick letter, I hit OK. It's going to come in portrait. I'm going to go ahead and just do image, rotate. You can do left or right. It doesn't matter. And so right now I've just got a landscape letter. I'm not, in the tutorial, I'm not going to worry about like order or anything like that. That's kind of personal preference. So I'm just going to go ahead and show you how to line them up. So I just start grabbing a couple photos. You just grab them, drag them up there. I'm going to grab, I'll just do like 4. And they're going to basically land all on top of each other in the center. Now, my mouse is still on the crop tool, so I'm going to come up here and do the little move tool. Again, this might be located somewhere different based on the version that you have. And then I use the keyboard shortcuts to zoom in and out. You just hold down, well, I don't have a Mac, so I don't know what you hold down on a Mac, but on anything that's not a Mac, I just hold down Control, plus zooms in, minus zooms out. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit here, and I'm going to kind of scroll up. And then I'm just going to spread these out so you guys can see that there's 4 photos here. So the first one, I just kind of bring it up here, give myself some kind of a margin, and I'm going to drop it. The software itself tends to have where when you bring a second photo, it will sort of snap. See, I don't know if you can see that. It kind of snaps so that these are both on the same level. When I was using an older version, I used to have to select the different layers, and then there was an arrange option, and you could say that you wanted them to all line up on the top or all line up on the left. And I had to do that a lot of the times, but I'm just kind of sharing what I'm working with here. So I've got this one here. This is kind of my designated start position. I'm going to take this one and I'm going to drag it over until it snaps next to the photo. These are now touching. The one on the right is highlighted, and get ready for like some high-tech stuff here. I'm going to take the right arrow on my keyboard and I'm going to push it 4 times. That's it. Okay. Next one, I'm going to grab it, snap it next to it. You can see it will snap to this. It will snap to the top. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Then I'm going to grab this one. Again, this is the one that's 2 inches wide, and you can see it's snapping up to the top, touches that. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is just the preferred like gap that I like between the photos. You can do more, you can do less, you can have them touching, do what you like. Now, for like the second row, so let's just grab like 3 more photos. They're going to come in right in the center, so you can just kind of separate them. I'm going to drop my photo bin down. So again, I'm going to come up here, and it's going to automatically sort of align itself to that left. I mean, you can push it further, but if you go slow with your mouse, you'll see it snap to that same line. Going to snap it up here. It's going to touch that photo. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, the more of these that you get going on here, the software will start to figure out where you want it to be. So here, I didn't do the arrow keys on my keyboard. I'm going to zoom in. Did not do the arrow keys on my keyboard. I just slowly brought the photo up, and the software already made it to where these 2 are aligned on the top. These 2 are aligned, you know, say their left side. It's already doing that for me. So see, I'm going to do it again. It's going to kind of automatically sort of slide itself into that spot. The only other thing that I can think of to kind of share is I don't pay attention to it needing to be like, if I put a bunch of square photos up here, they aren't going to, like, I'm going to have a gap on either side. That doesn't matter to me. It's not going to be centered. It's not going to be perfectly like spaced within the margins. That doesn't bother me. So for me, this would be it. I wouldn't try to squeeze in a 7th photo. With the fact that I've got some wider photos, what I end up doing is, like this one, I'm probably going to do 5 square photos, start a new row. So this one would be over here. And then I would put like my wide photos here. So then I'm going to do, say, 3 rows, and I'm going to make sure that all the ones, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, these are all going to be square photos, and I'm going to make sure that the one that goes underneath this is the same width. And then when you're all done, it's going to be like nice, tidy, everything's lined up, super easy. Then you just go into your print. Some of the things that I do make sure to print, you definitely these are all going to be completely different too, because depending on your computer, depending on your Photoshop version, and depending on your printer, you're going to want to play around with some of the settings. Like right now, mine thinks that it's got plain paper, so I would change this. I want it to print on the, you want to match this to as close as what your photo paper is, and you're going to get a better print. Print quality, I would like to change it to as high as possible. So I'm going to say photo printing. Come down here, I would say high. Here's another thing that's kind of, I've already told it that it's a letter size, but again, I have to come in here and change it in here. This stuff will automatically change. I make sure to say borderless, because if I check borderless, it will send it to the printer as is, where I have designated how much of a margin I want right here to come out. If I uncheck that box, the software will already put in, it's a little bit bigger than 1/4 of an inch, and sometimes I've had my collages get cut off. So for me, I just go borderless. I like to be able to control where it is. Most of the time before I will send it to print, I will just like click, drag, highlight everything, and I'll kind of, center it if I'm only doing one. I was able to fit January and February together on one because I had 2 rows for January, 3 rows for February. March, I am probably looking at 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This would get me 18. So I'll probably have 18 on one side, split up in 3 rows, 12 on the other side, split up in 3 rows, and then that leaves me a spot that's, about this size for one of those quarantine, like journaling spots that I can make it look like it's part of the collage. But that, again, that's something that I'm thinking for my personal layout design. But I'm hoping that some of this is making sense as far as like how to make the collage yourself. You literally just snap the photos together, use your arrow keys. So it's pretty much just repetitive things as far as you want to make sure that you're cropping your photos to the same size. If you have something that you need to be wider, then just make sure that they are the same height. These are all 1.5 inches tall. You do not need to make your photos this tiny. If you had 6 photos, you could come in here and do bigger squares and have 2 rows of 3. So like a much bigger collage. Other than that, I'm trying to think, like I would say maybe leave me, if you have like specific questions, like you're having a hard time finding something in the software, or like if you have issues with trying to figure out like your photo arrangement, a lot of times I'll just take a scratch paper and literally just draw boxes and figure out, how many are going to fit. And sometimes I will make a collage where, say I've got all these boxes and stuff, but I just don't have enough to fill in or something. I'll leave it blank, and then this I will fill in with like pattern paper and embellishment. That is super easy. You can even, like let's say that this, let's say this was all photos and you had this open, you could even save yourself a step. You could come over here, use the text tool, and you could type your, oh, that's big. You could type your journaling directly in here. And have it print out with the photos and just kind of save a little bit of time. I've done that before too. So, I think I'm going to end that here and go ahead and start editing this for real. And like I said, if you have any specific questions, let me know in the comments down below. Otherwise, it's pretty much just using the crop tool to crop your photos, figuring out how many you have, how much space you want it to take up on your layout. Everybody's going to have something different kind of going on, because if you have a wide format printer and you're able to print 12 by 12 photo collages, you've got a little bit more width than I do. You've got an extra inch as far as printing something that would go edge to edge. You may have more photos, you may have less photos. So it's all going to be completely dependent on an individual's situation as far as photos, style, software, that kind of thing. But definitely leave me a comment if you've got like a super specific question or you need help with it. Definitely reach out. Like, no problem to me. I hope this helps. I know I'm kind of a mess, but I try. So, as always, thank you guys for spending some time with me. And I really hope that this helps those of you that have been asking about this. And I'll catch you guys later.